In this video, we're going to learn how to find their circumference and area using the radius and diameter of a circle. So we'll start by looking at the definition of a circle. So we have this point in the middle, which we call the center. The definition of a circle says the point from the center to the edge is always the same no matter where you are at in the circle, meaning if we had a line here, or we had a line here, a line here, or a line here, there's always going to be the same length. So we call that middle point the center of the circle. Now we call that line from the center of the circle to the end of the circle the radius. And now a circle can only have one radius, but where you put the radius can be at any point in the circle. So you can really have infinite radiuses or lines from the center of the circle to the end of the circle. Now the diameter of the circle is similar to the radius. Remember, the radius is from the center of the circle to the end of the circle. The diameter is the length that goes from one end of the circle to the other and must pass through the center. So if we had a line that goes from here to here, that would not be the diameter, that would not be the radius because it doesn't hit the center of the circle. So that wouldn't count as that. Now we use the diameter of the circle to figure out something called the circumference. Now the circumference is actually the distance around the circle from one point. And remember that our diameter is the length from one side of the circle to the other that goes through the center, which we call d. Now there's an equation to figure out the circumference of a circle, and that is equal to d times pi. And pi is a constant value, which we usually just use as 3.14. Now let's do some examples of solving for the circumference. Now remember, the equation is diameter times pi, and pi is equal to 3.14. So if we have a line that goes from one end to the other of a circle, and it also hits through the center, and the length of that is 4, meaning our diameter is 4, we would plug this into our equation. Circumference is equal to 4 for d, and for pi, we would type in 3.14. Multiplying that out on a calculator would give us an answer of 12.56. So let's do another example. So again, we have circumference is equal to d times pi. But what if we have, from the center of our circle to the end, we actually have a value of 3. Now remember, from the center to the edge is radius. Actually, the diameter would be 2 radiuses. It'd be from the center to the edge, so we'd have 2r, meaning we'd have a 3 plus 3. That would change our equation from circumference is equal to d to actually 2r pi. And since we know that r is equal to 3, we can plug this into our equation. So 2 times r, which is 3, times pi, and again, pi is equal to 3.14. So our circumference would be, if we multiply that, it'd be 6 pi, or if we multiply pi out, we get an answer of 18.84. Now moving on, we're going to take a look at area. Now the definition of area is just the space that is within inside of a circle. And we can actually figure this equation out by looking at the radius. Now remember, radius is from the center of the circle to the edge. It is half of the diameter, which is going to be r. Our equation for figuring out the area is equal to pi r squared. So say for instance we have a radius that is equal to 4. So if we wanted to figure out the area, we would take the area, which is equal to pi times 4 squared. Now remember, 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4, and then we have that pi. And remember, pi is equal to 3.14. Multiplying that out, we would have 16 pi. And if we multiply 16 times 3.14, we get an answer of 50.24. So let's try an example here. Now let's say we have a diameter, a point that goes through the center from edge to edge, and that is equal to 10. So our diameter is equal to 10. And again, we want to figure out the area of a circle, and the equation is pi r squared for that. So how do we figure out from the diameter what r is equal to? So remember that r is equal just from one side here to this side, while the diameter is equal to the whole length from here to here. So that would mean that the radius is equal to half of the diameter, which would be equal to 10 over 2, which is equal to 5. So our radius is 5. Now if we wanted to plug this in, we got to times it by pi times 5 squared. And remember that pi is equal to 3.14. So we'd have pi times 5 times 5. That would give us 25 pi. And if we multiply 25 by 3.14, we have an answer of 78.5.